Do you think people would be as attracted to her if they knew that her name translates as Renette Fish? Overdue Doctor Who review, and we are up to The Girl in the Fireplace. Now, this one was an interesting one for me to go back and revisit because in an odd way, I tend to forget about it. Not that I ever thought it was a bad episode. I actually always quite liked it. But whenever I would tend to think of my favorite episodes, or even my favorite Moffat written episodes, other commenters and whatnot would always, they'd always be sure to bring this up, and I would forget to bring it up. So I really wanted to go back and try and figure out if I could either, figure out why it kind of never left as much of an impression as I would have thought, or, if that just, if it sinks in better, I just absorb it better this time. I'm not sure either one has happened. Yeah, so I came away. Well, first, let me say, if you love this episode, awesome. I can look at it and I can see all the things that I'm like, that's good, that's great, that's awesome, that's well paced, and yet somehow it doesn't connect quite right. And I still don't know why. It's honestly, this happens to me at a number of points in Doctor Who. Sometimes something I will understand why it's emotionally affecting, why it is paying off well, but it still didn't actually hit that note. I only understand on an intellectual level, like in the case of this episode, that it's poignant and sad. I'm not saying that it isn't, but I'm saying for whatever reason, the construction that should be bringing those emotions out of me isn't quite doing it. But since I still don't know why that is, let's focus on some of the good stuff. So obviously Tennant is really, he got this role right off, but he's really settling in at this point, kind of, is bouncing around in his sense of adventure, which was one of the things that I do like about his Doctor. I'm trying to be careful to not be overly slagging off of Tennant, because I feel like I have been in the last, year or so, just because he's kind of been dropping in my estimation relative to other Doctors, but I do like that sort of, I love that, something like he, says, monsters have nightmares too. And the young man says, what do they have nightmares about? Me! Ha! And, this sort of tally-ho thing going on. And I quite like that element of him when it's at play. And it is at play here. I wish Mickey had traveled in the TARDIS for longer than he did, because I actually quite like the dynamic of Rose kind of having fun with him there, and him getting starting to appreciate what she sees in all of this, but the Doctor basically forgetting that he's around. I kind of oddly like that dynamic, and I kind of wish we had it for longer than we did. We've got the clockwork robots, which again, I never found them scary. Even now, I didn't find them scary. I think it's a really cool conceit, the whole idea of, hey, that clock's broken, so what's ticking? That's cool. I do like that. And once the masks are off, the look of them is pretty neat too. And I like the rationale behind what they're doing, because it is the kind of thing that makes sense if you think about, well, these are machines that are operating within the parameters that they've been given, and within those parameters, what they're doing makes sense. And at this point, there's no one left to explain to them why this doesn't work, what it is they're trying to do. They're just going about it in the best way that they can. I kind of like that, they've just gone too far down this logic hole to come to this conclusion that is insane, but they're gonna do it. And I kind of enjoy how that pans out. And the final reveal for the name of the ship makes that all play very well. Madame de Pompadour herself is very well performed. I feel like in some ways the actress was hampered by the overly formal language. Not always. I think when she is, you know, having her flirtier moments with the Doctor, it works really well. You know, how well and formally she speaks with him. It works well in the interplay between them. However, when she is in situations that are a little bit more dire, the fact that she's still speaking in this slightly stilted, overly formal way of speaking, it kind of pulls me out of it a little bit. And I feel like in some ways having to do that at moments where, you know, in theory she should be slightly more commanded by emotion than one would expect from someone who's still speaking like that. I feel like that actually kind of kneecapped her performance a little bit in some moments. Not always, and I think she does about as well as you could do with the part. That's one of the few things that I kind of glommed onto this time. I'm like, maybe that's what's sort of throwing it off a little bit for me. I love the horse. I wish the horse had stuck around. Why didn't we get more of the horse? But I also structurally really like it. It gets come back, and I would argue refined when we get to Amy Pond eventually, but I like this idea of someone encountering the Doctor across their life like this. And it's interesting to get it from the Doctor's perspective, where this person just keeps getting a little bit older every time. And there is a sadness to it, especially because, you know, the Doctor leaves for what is supposed to be 20 seconds, and he comes back and he's too late. And again, I do get why that's sad. It just doesn't actually twist at the heartstrings at me quite properly. But for what is planned, what is laid out, and what is executed, no, it's good stuff. It's just for whatever reason, this one doesn't have, for me, and possibly only for me, doesn't have the emotional resonance that it's trying for, which is probably why I tend to forget about it. Because what it's trying to do, I'm not going to say it fails at, but it didn't succeed it with me, which means that it kind of drifts off in my mind as something that, you know, didn't quite come together the way it was meant to. I don't know if I've articulated any of this very well at all, because like I said, I barely understand it. Like, I feel like I should like this episode a lot more than I do. And I do like it. I don't dislike it, but I cannot ignore the fact that I'm obviously supposed to have a stronger emotional reaction to it than I do. And I know a ton of other fans of this show do have a much stronger emotional reaction to it than I do. And like, really, at this point, you need to realize I'm a huge softie at this point. Ever since I had a kid, like, the things that will set me off and, you know, get me to choke up, it does not take much when it hits me right. For whatever reason, this doesn't quite do it. But the performances are good. You know, the design on the Clockwork Robots is good. The structure is cool. I like the conceit. I like the dynamic between Renette and the Doctor, and that sort of flirtation between them. I like all of it. I just don't love any of it. I guess that's where I land ultimately. The Girl in the Fireplace. Maybe chalk this into the pile of unpopular opinions. I should keep track of those, because like every now and then people ask me, what are your unpopular Doctor Who opinions? And I actually kind of don't know, because I don't like keep my finger on the pulse of what is or isn't accepted fandom wisdom very carefully. So like, there are things that I think and I go, wait, do other people actually feel that way, or do I have the unpopular opinion? I don't know. I should try and figure that out one of these days, because I feel bad not knowing an answer to that question. In any case, whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. A whole bunch of stuff you can do, because there's buttons and there's links, including one to the Patreon if you feel like supporting me that way. There's also a whole bunch of other stuff down there as well. P.O. Box, other links, etc. Check them out in the description if you want to. If you don't want to, that's okay, because at the end of the day, folks, you're the council. I just run the meetings. And until next time, this council is adjourned.